Hey everyone, welcome to the Seeds of Success podcast, hosted by Dottie San Martin and Orly Rivera. This show is your weekly dose of knowledge, insights, and actionable tips to transform centers into striking successes. Whether you're a seasoned industry professional or just stepping onto the lanes, we've got you covered. Dottie, how is your day going so far?
My day is going good, Orly. You know, as I was preparing for today's podcast, all that kept running through my mind is where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
And why is that?
Well, you know, today, listeners, we want to talk a little bit about making sure that your staff is easily identifiable, right? You don't want your customers coming in hunting when they need assistance. And I have gone into so many places that I can't tell a customer from a worker.
Yeah. Have you had that before where you've gone up to somebody and say, hi, do you guys have it? And they're like, I don't work here. Like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. And then on the other side of that, you go into a store and you see somebody that you think is a customer, and in actuality, you know, you think they're a customer because they look like a customer. They don't look like an employee. There's nothing to identify them. They're certainly not acknowledging me as a customer. So they must be another customer, right?
Yeah. And I think, you know, I've been in some businesses where I get it. You have this relaxed, you know, maybe dress code, but yeah, it does kind of make a difference sometimes to be able to make sure you know who's who when someone's standing around or leaning on a counter and you're like, okay, do they work here? Do they not work here? Who do I ask for help? And if that employee for some reason isn't reaching out to them saying, hey, did you need some help? Then it's even more confusing. So yeah, I think, you know, you don't want them to get lost in the crowd. You know, I know not everybody's going to wear name badges, but things like that, they do make a difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, you know, I think in preparation for that, obviously, every business has a dress code per se. Whatever that dress code is, you know, it definitely needs to be reinforced, and you need to remind people of that. But even if you don't have a specific shirt or whatever that you wear, which personally I encourage that. I think that, you know, having a branded uniform shirt is very valuable, and it should always be nice and neat and clean. But if you don't, obviously you still have to set the expectations. The employee needs to come in, they need to be well groomed, they need to, you know, be a true representation of what you want your center's image to be. But also there needs to be other things that are a part of that. So I know it's going to sound funny, but you already know who I am. I'm already a crazy person anyway. But part of the dress code is that it needs to include a smile. It should be, even if there is not a shirt, a branded shirt in the picture, it still needs to be easy to recognize who's an employee there, because they should be making eye contact. They should be smiling. They should be offering their assistance. You can tell when a customer is looking for something or looks lost or looks like they're trying to find somebody to ask a question to. You can approach them. That's definitely preferred. So what's so frustrating, though, is when you are looking for help and you can't find it, then whatever you're looking for help, be it, you know, you've got an issue you're trying to resolve. By the time you find that help, if you've had a hunt for a long time, that's even a bigger problem than it was when you first started looking, because now you're ticked off because you had to hunt for somebody, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've gone into places before where, you know, you walk in and you're kind of looking for someone, whether it's like a little, you know, somewhere you can order some food or a restaurant or something, and you walk in and like nobody helps you. I walk back out and, you know, my wife's like, so are we going in there? I was like, nobody came up to me, so let's just go somewhere else. So, you know, it's huge when you don't have, you know, whether it's a restaurant and there's no hostess there and you're waiting 5 minutes. And it's even, I had this happen the other day. I won't call anybody out. Went into a restaurant. There was no host or hostess there. It wasn't busy. So, you know, I would take that into consideration. There's another group of people there that are like, we've been waiting here 5 minutes and nobody's came up here yet. So I was kind of like, all right, yeah, we're going to go somewhere else. And they walked out too. They were walking out too. So yeah, it makes a huge difference when people don't know who your staff is and even if you are busy, come up real quick. Hey, I'll be right back with you guys. I'm just taking care of something over here and we'll get you taken care of. You know, that makes a big difference too.
Well, you know, it is all part of your service.
Yeah.
And I'll share an experience that I had a while back, you want your customers' experience to be great. And if everything else is going right and they have trouble trying to find somebody when they need assistance, first of all, I like to always recommend, to employees to be proactive. Look around, be watching the customers. You can tell when someone's needing something. If there's a dead ball, acknowledge that you're on your way down or you're sending someone down to get that dead ball before they have to call for help. It makes a big difference in the level of service. And if you are priding yourself in being a premier entertainment center, then you need to match your service, and that goes all the way through with making sure that your employees are easy to be found and easy to identify, because the service that you deliver should be equal with the experience that they have. So if you are offering a top of the line experience, if you have a top of the line center with all the bells and whistles, and you're one of the ones that's installing the new Neoverse, and the experience is just going to be amazing for these people, but yet when it comes to needing help, that experience can suddenly be taken from a premier experience down to just an ordinary experience, or less than ordinary experience. And that is certainly not what you want. You can charge for that experience if you make sure that you are delivering the service that goes along with it. And the example that I'm going to use is I went into a high-end retail store not too long ago. They pride themselves on the service that they deliver. Their reputation has always been built on the service that they deliver. And remember, a high-end store, you're paying high-end prices, right? Yeah. And if you're getting the service that is equal to that, that's one thing. But if you go into a high-end retail store and you are wanting assistance, and you walk to the counter and there are 3 young women on the other side of the counter, not on the inside of the counter, on the outside of the counter, just like I am as a customer needing help. And they are all have their cell phones out, and they are talking amongst themselves, and they are talking about something they're watching on their phones, oblivious to the fact that I'm standing there, obviously looking around that I need help. And at first I thought they were customers, but then later I realized these are employees. They weren't dressed like normal employees were at one time in that store. So it used to be that they had to dress, very professionally. Well, that dress code has relaxed. That's fine. I'm cool with that. But acknowledge that I'm a customer and take care of me as a customer in a high-end retail store. I had to approach them and say, "Excuse me." And by that time, my frustration was already up there. So I'm like, I am in a high-end store and this is the way I'm being treated. So, we don't want customers to feel that way when they come into the centers. We want them to feel like, even if they can't identify by a piece of clothing on them, then we're making eye contact. We're saying hello. We're saying thank you. We're saying welcome to our center. We're saying, is there anything I can help you with? We're saying, oh, I see that ball return. I'll get someone right on it, before they're asking for help.
Yeah. And 2 things on that. One, the cell phone thing could probably be a whole show on its own, but that's a trick. I mean, it's not tricky. I know my stance on it, but I get it. People are so, they're all about their phones these days. So when you have staff coming in and you're saying, "Oh, by the way, your phone needs to stay in the locker," they're kind of looking at you like in shock. They're like, "What?" Well, what if there's an emergency? Well, what if there was an emergency years ago? What do people do? You give your family the bowling center phone number, and it's not that you don't want them to have it in case of an emergency. I'm sure there's some exceptions, but the thing is, it doesn't stay in their pocket only for emergencies. You know what I mean? It slowly slips out. You see somebody on it, and that doesn't look good when somebody's on their phone not coming to help you. So again, that could probably be a whole show on its own. I went to not a sales school. I think it was like a business class thing one time, and it was with other people from different bowling centers, and they brought up cell phones, and one lady was like, "Yeah, I give them. They're allowed to use it 5 times on their shift," or something random like that. And I'm like,
"Oh gosh,
like I'm pretty. Do you think they're really just doing the 5 times? Yeah, So I know every place is different, but I think that's a big deal when it comes to that. And the other thing I was going to say is, When people are coming up to your counter, and you might give that great service when they're at the counter, you get them down their lanes. It doesn't stop there. That doesn't mean you're done with them. Go down and check every once in a while, because like you said, if there's a ball stuck, sometimes they don't want to come looking for someone. But if you happen to go down there and you're like, hey, is everyone good down here? Or, does anybody need anything? Maybe take a menu. Hey, do you guys, here's a menu. And they might say, oh, our ball got stuck, and they'll let you know because they didn't want to let you know. And then you go back there and there's like 7 balls, because they just kept bowling and bowling, grabbing a new ball, thinking like, oh, maybe it'll get unstuck or something, So yeah, I mentioned the menu. That's a big deal. I've had people come in and you're like, would you guys like a menu today? And they're like, no, we're good. We're just going to bowl. But when you still walk down there a little later and say, hey, by the way, I know you guys said you're just going to bowl. I'm just going to leave a menu here if you guys do want to take a look at it. A lot of times they'll end up ordering food. So that service shouldn't stop there at the counter. You have to give great customer service the whole time they're there.
Yeah, and Orly, many businesses are starting to implement self-service and doing sales through the kiosk and check-ins and stuff through the kiosk. And as you're going through the center, that's a convenience for your customer. And so as you're going down and being proactive and being friendly, and mention things like that, because they may not know it. They may not, they may be playing Where's Waldo with the kiosk for all I know.
Yeah.
So, I think it all boils down to communication and making sure that, that you've got the right expectation for your staff members. So
if you're trying to push that kiosk, maybe go down there and say, hey guys, anybody need anything, any drinks or food? And if you do want to order some food, I can come up here and show you on the kiosk how to use that, because if they're not wanting to, or maybe it's their first time, that's a great opportunity to take them up to it and kind of show them how easy it is, and I think that's a big deal.
Yes. Well, listeners, do me a favor. Take 5 minutes and look and make sure that your customers are not searching for Waldo in your center. Make sure that you have the proper expectations set for your employees, and communicate with them and let them know it's okay. You need to smile. You need to interact with the customers, and try to be ahead of them when they are in need of something. But certainly don't make your customers look for Waldo, because it's super frustrating. So as always, we enjoy our time with you. We hope that you get 1 or 2 little things out of all of our episodes. And please feel free to share all of these episodes with your employees. We're on all major platforms. Podcast platforms. So make sure that you subscribe to be notified of the latest episode. And until next week, listeners, keep creating magic and delivering memorable moments.